power of attorney.
Okay.
Because he has the power of attorney to be you, he can take our money, keep it in Jordan, you go back to Jordan with him.
So let's talk about this. We're in a situation here, okay, yeah? And I saw a thread on Reddit, which I'm going to pull up for you guys now. Now, in this thread, as you can see, someone came up by saying, how do we feel about how Adnan responded to Pregnant Lily's concerns and hanging up on Tiger Lily, making her cry? And we'll get into the rest of that clip itself in particular, okay? But here, this person came up by saying, I'm curious about everybody's opinions on Adnan wanting to keep his apartment in Jordan, all right? And having his brother in charge of his financials. I have an issue with the fact that his pregnant wife comes to him with her concerns about having another home when he should be focused on making a home with her, his new wife, and his soon-to-be child in America. I have a problem with what he said and how he said it. I can't remember what he said word for word, which of course I will play for you guys in a second, okay? But he said something along the lines to her like, I will live where I want to live whenever I want. Or something like that, making it seem like he will go wherever he sees fit, even if it's without her. I don't know this is for certain, but I think that if he keeps this apartment in Jordan, Tiger Lily will pay for it. Why should she? So here's the thing. I think when it comes to the financial part of Tiger Lily paying for his apartment that he's going to have in Jordan, I don't think that she'll pay for it. I believe that Adnan will pay for it, because he has got money, He does come from, he's got obviously his own little business here and there. And if anything, Tiger Lily is the one that seems to attract men who've got money. I mean, listen, if you look back at the person that she was married to before, and the money that she gets, a lot of the money that she gets is from childcare, as well as also being the fact that she was with somebody who was quite rich himself in particular. Of course, she's got her own business, which obviously helps along. But Tiger Lily, she's not as rich as what you as you think. Okay, so some of the money that she does get isn't exactly out of her pocket, and I do believe that the financial side of things isn't something that I mean, listen, I don't believe that Adnan is in this relationship necessarily to take advantage of Tiger Lily's actual financial situation, because he's not built like that. People from his culture aren't built like that. They have their own money, and they are built to provide, not to take from their partners, but to provide. Which is why Adnan is obviously trustworthy of his brother. But at the same time, Tiger Lily is gonna have different opinions because she comes from a different part of the world where things are done a little bit differently. But this is one of the problems with these two. There's a lack of understanding of each other's background and where each other's come from. But let's continue.
I'm left with the children and no money.
Mind like this with me. You think I get the money and running away and just leave you and leave my baby?
We just want you to take back the power of attorney.
See, this is the thing, though, isn't it? There is this conversation going on with these two, and for Adnan, in his mind, he's like, listen, I'm not here with you for money, you know what I mean? I'm here for whatever purpose I'm here for, but trust when I tell you, if I'm going to have a child by you, that child is my child. Don't think that child is going to be a child that I'm going to be abandoned. But let's not forget, though, some people, depending on their culture, where they're from, what they're raised, but some people from Muslim cultures as well, when it comes to men aren't always required to actually physically always be there for their child. I know plenty of people, not personally, but the schools that I worked in the past, all right? And I remember I worked in one school where it was predominantly a Bangladesh-based school. Like most people there were from Bengali, right? No, so for Bangladesh, sorry, so they're Bengali people, right? And a lot of these kids, their fathers were not in the UK. A lot of their fathers was actually in Bangladesh, doing whatever they're doing to earn money, while the mums were here alone raising those kids. So this is one of those things where, Tiger Lily really should have tried to find out some of the information beforehand, because this isn't something that is necessarily new, and it's not something that Adnan is necessarily doing out of the fact that he's selfish or he's a narcissist or whatever. It's more because this could easily be a part of his culture, where men are expected to be out there making money at any means necessary, and then sending it back to the wife, so therefore she can look after the kids, and then they can go off and do whatever they want to do. Which is why you have to remember, sometimes in some Muslim cultures, depending on the culture of that Muslim person, sometimes you're even allowed to have more than one wife, and you can have them in different locations and have a main house, blah 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 blah. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things here that Tiger Lily doesn't understand and hasn't looked into. All right. But either way, though, let's get into exactly what else was said here in this Reddit thread before we finish off the video, okay? And what do we think about Tiger Lady wanting the post-nup to protect herself in the face of Adnan putting his brother in the as his power of attorney? I think that's what he did, or whatever, to make him able to have access to his financials and make decisions on his behalf. While I feel Tiger Lily should have thought about all of this before marriage, I still think she needs to protect herself. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about this whole post-nup stuff, okay? Now, we have to bear in mind. Let me use Indians for example, okay, right? People who are Muslim for Indian cultures, or maybe even a different religion, to be fair, from Indian cultures. But let's just talk about it in terms of the Muslim side of things, right? They are known notoriously for being very, very wealthy. Why? Because they stay at home with their parents pretty much their whole life. You know, and most of the time, these people don't even have bills outside the house. They don't actually rent out necessarily, unless they got the family. Usually that's when maybe they'll go and obviously go buy a house and da-da-da-da. But for the most part, even when they get married, a lot of them are still required to stay at home, right? Remember when Jenny went over to India, I believe, to be with Rishi, and then she found out that once she married Rishi, that she's going to have to live in the same house as him and his parents, and she's going to have to do all these chores and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, I don't know if these things are necessarily the same in Jordan. I'm not saying, I don't know if they're the same, but the point that I'm making is that it doesn't come as a surprise to me that he's giving his brother the power of attorney, because, you know, some people, everything that they do is kept in-house. All the finances, all the businesses, it's literally a generational thing, you know. I start a business, it will be passed down to my child, then their child, then their child. You see what I'm saying? The money that we raise is passed down throughout everybody in the family, you know. And this is why I saw this post the other day where literally spoke about how, I believe it was Indian parents or maybe Muslim families, but I think it was more direct Indians, are some of the wealthiest families, in the world, in terms of the fact that they keep everything in house. You know, it's the same as Jewish people. They keep everything in house, right? And a lot of them don't move out, you know what I mean? Or think if they do move out, things are paid for by X, Y, Z. You see what I'm saying? So there is that financial kind of benefit that they do for each other. But meanwhile, when you look at other cultures, you know what I mean? I mean, sadly, as a black person, I believe we was last on the list, because damn, we just savaged to each other, sadly. So I think the Caucasian people were then slightly above us because we all kick our kids out from early and let them and make them, you know, start paying rent and stuff and all that kind of stuff. But hey, everybody's different, right? But nonetheless, though, I don't think that this whole power of attorney thing is as deep as what it is. I don't think that it's a matter of where, you know, the brother's ever going to steal money from his brother, you know what I mean? He's ever going to, you know, do wrong by Adnan. I think this is just something that this is what they do in their family, okay? This is just a normal thing. And this is why I believe Adnan's probably reacting the way he's reacting. He's thinking, what the hell was going on here? Like, who the hell do you think you are? And especially given the fact that she's a woman, let's be real, you know, in his culture where he's come from, like, yeah, women, you're just here for specific needs and that's about it. Let's keep it a buck, all right? Now, with that being said, though, let's get back into the video before actually we continue with the rest of this thread.
Jordan, I am successful. I have a own home, I have a own car, I have a own business. That a power of attorney, something wrong, he can go into fix it in the court, and he can go into bank account to fixing something.
Even that himself in particular, you know, he makes, I'm not going to say he makes good points or strong points, but he makes points that make sense to what I'm basically saying. You see what I'm saying, okay? Because, you know, everyone from this culture, they were all built to look after each other. Not to take or not to steal, to look after each other. From my understanding, I could be completely wrong. You know, I'm not going to sit and say that I fully researched with the things that I'm telling you, but these are the things that I'm aware of, and these are the things that may apply to Adnan in this situation, okay? And Tiger Lily obviously has done no research whatsoever to even, you know, look into this. So really and truly, if Tiger Lily had done this research, then she should already propose the prenup thing way before, as well as the post-nup as well, but she didn't. She's now acting after, you know, she's taking the big jump because she's a clown. But hey, that's another conversation. But let's get into what it says next here. On one hand, I would understand Adnan being upset that wife doesn't trust with that move. But on the other hand, why should she trust when he is making shady moves? Let's talk about it. Is it shady moves? If we are from somebody who's from a first world country, yes, it's a shady move. That's how we're going to see it. But if you're from someone that's from his culture, his life, or whatever, right? It's not a shady move, because men just do these things anyway. Think about the wedding. Let's go back to the wedding. You know, when he planned the whole wedding, everything was based around him and the Adnan party, da 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 da. And it's funny, isn't it? At that time, Tiger Lily said, oh, this wedding seems to be about, us, but she didn't make a massive fuss about it. And obviously explained to her why the wedding was the way it was. Even when they've had conversations about what she can and cannot wear, she's the one that's even said, listen, I know I'm the one that's going to have to make the sacrifices. So it's not like she's not aware of these things. So I don't really think that the moves were necessarily actually shady in that intention. It's just the fact that he's used to the fact that he can make decisions and choices regardless of what Tiger Lily has to say. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, that's just that. Yeah, anyway, continues by saying, I say Tiger Lily should protect herself. However, she is so vulnerable, I doubt she will employ the post-nup after Adnan's little threat. I do agree that, to be honest, she probably won't. The fact that he would give up on his wife and child so easily screamed red flag. You know what, though? Yes, it does scream red flag, but it also screamed that where he's from, if one woman does not obey you, that is fine. I will go find another one that will obey me. You see what I'm saying? Because that's his mentality. If you don't want to obey me, don't worry about it. I'll easily kick you to the curb and find someone else. And then that's when, he's probably going to be more inclined to want to neglect his parents' duties at the same time too. As long as he's married to Tiger Lily, he will always be there for the child. Well, may not always physically be there, but he'll be there, if you know what I mean, right? But if them two was to not be together anymore, 100% he'll be disowning both of them. So to be honest with you, yes, it's a red flag, but it's also him saying that, like yo, where I'm from, like, I can go find someone else. It's good. And also, let's not forget, though, he's a young guy. He's in his 20s, right? So, to be fair with you, I hate to say it, but given that Tiger Lily is obviously, like 20 years older than him or whatnot, let's just put into perspective that the Adnan is a very young guy who's very aware that he's got plenty more time to find a woman that's gonna do right by his standards. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, Tiger Lily really should have thought about that. That's one of the disadvantages of being with someone who's younger. They got time to waste. To be honest with you, Now, continues by saying, if I were Tiger Lily, I would call his bluff. I don't think he's bluff anyway, and send the documents anyway. And he already has access to a financial since they're married, doesn't he? So couldn't he essentially wipe his ass with that post-nup and then bleed her dry because he was pissed she dared send it. I'm not sure how it works, but we never got a resolution to the situation. I'm sure we'll get it next week's episode anyway. I hope we do anyway. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't call this bluff because it's not a bluff. I would say personally, if you want to call his alleged bluff, call it because you're ready for him to leave you. Because I promise you now, if she called his bluff, I think that he would bounce. If he didn't, then that would be a surprise. You know what I mean? But if he didn't, then that means Tiger Lily would actually now have more power than she realized. You see what I'm saying? All right. But anyway, let's get into the other part of the video before we continue here.
He just will helping me.
Then we just need to have a post-marital agreement.
Get anything from your attorney, I will not go into visa appointment. One continue with wife and trust to her husband.
Now listen, and this is why, like, for me personally, I don't know if I would call that a bluff. It could be a bluff. Do you know what I mean? It could be a bluff. Now I'm not gonna sit and say that I wish it is a bluff because in reality, he should never say that in the first place, point blank, period. But this is my point. When you're dealing with someone like Adnan, you cannot be surprised by this type of behavior because this is potentially a cultural thing of how he's been raised, the things that he's been able to get away with. Because we know that he's very well pampered for by his family. I don't know if this guy's ever been told off in his life, to be honest with you. I feel like he's been given everything since day one. Probably never had a single discipline ever. And this is, and to be fair, in some cultures, men are raised to be kings, as they say, to be leaders, So therefore, they get with everything. I've seen it with kids, when going back to my example before when I was dealing with these kids from these Bengali kids, right? It was crazy because when the boys misbehaved in school, parents didn't do nothing. You tell them, they did nothing. The mothers did nothing. And it's crazy because the mothers, from my understanding, was a guy I worked with at the time, told me that, listen, these mothers are left to raise these kids on their own. And if they're raising a son, they can't discipline because the sons don't even respect their mothers because they're mothers. So if the mothers try to discipline, they're not going to listen. It's only when the father comes, that's the only time they're going to listen. But if it's the daughters, on the other hand, because they're raised completely different, they're raised to be housewives and all that kind of stuff, they can be told off, you see what I'm saying, by the mothers. And the mothers will be very hard on them too. So Adnan's probably been, you know, pampered way too much. Now, it continues by saying, like I said, I think she probably caved to his threats. By the looks of the tale, all Adnan has lots to say about everyone and his relationship, and Tiger Lady sits meekly by. I wonder if she is allowed to say anything. Probably not. This is what pisses me off, because not only does he want her to live by Muslim rules, he wants her to he wants to keep her quiet about her own opinions and thoughts. Listen, I agree. You know, and this is why Tiger Lily should have really got to know this man properly. That's why I don't feel sorry for her, because she did this to herself. Adam thinks he is quite the power player, and I love that Niles gets in his face. Now listen, I'm waiting. I'm looking forward to that. A man should never hang on his wife in the middle of a serious conversation. I agree. Never hang up. Let alone his vulnerable, alone, pregnant wife who is paying for everything. I mean, this whole paying for everything. That I don't really think that's necessarily the case, but who knows? Maybe it is the case, but I don't think so. But either way, though, yes, should he be treating his vulnerable pregnant wife? Absolutely not like that. But was he raised to be respectful to women when in any situation, whether they're pregnant or not? Was he raised that way? Everything says no. But hey, listen, I could be completely wrong about some of the things, or maybe even everything that I said, you know. But I'm just trying to give you folks a different perspective of why he is behaving the way he's behaving. And trust me when I tell you, nothing that I'm saying is a justification for his behavior in any shape or form. Just trying to explain why he's the way he is, and the fact that Tiger Lily just, you know, was lazy in actually learning about her partner. Yeah, and now she is where she's at. But nonetheless, though, let me know your thoughts down below. Okay, obviously regarding what was said in the thread, as well as also what I've said myself in particular, and we'll talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, peace.